Pope Francis has arrived in Baghdad at the start of a historic four-day tour of Iraq. It's the first time a pope has ever visited the country. The 84-year-old head of the Catholic Church touched down in the capital an hour ago. There are heightened fears over security and a nationwide coronavirus curfew. Francis will meet with political and religious leaders and visit the former Islamic State stronghold, Mosul. Counter-terror measures have been beefed up after a spate of rocket and suicide bomb attacks in recent weeks. But for more on this historic visit, I'm now joined by DW Religious Affairs analyst Martin Gak. Martin, why is the Pope visiting the country now?
I think the main interest of the Vatican is to shed light on a conflict, in a situation for the Christian community, which has been essentially eclipsed by sort of a whole series of other crises that have captured international attention. So, much in the usual way that this Pope travels to places to highlight an issue, he's doing that now in Iraq, where, the Christian community has been under enormous pressure for the last few years. In a region that has been in constant conflict for the better part of 25 years. And the numbers of the community have dwindled from 1.4 million believers or faithful to somewhere in the order of 250,000.
So, on these pictures, we're seeing many people welcoming Francis in Baghdad today, and the Pope also wants to celebrate a Mass with thousands of believers during a worldwide pandemic. Is that considered to be a good idea?
Well, there's been a lot of criticism, but I think that what we're seeing in these images is precisely the problem that, the Vatican has to some degree swept aside, which is the idea that, even with the best of intentions, governments cannot really offer full control of crowds. And essentially, when you have something of this magnitude, which is the first visit of the Pope to, a country that has been to some degree in political isolation, not only based on the current health crisis, obviously you're bound to have a lot of people circulating and, with very little capacity to control them. So there is the fair concern, obviously, that, particularly the Mass, which could attract thousands of people this coming Sunday in the north of the country, could really become a super spreader event. But, the Vatican takes the position that it's important to be out there with the people, and this is the way in which they're trying to fulfill that, what they see as their mission.
Martin, stay with us. The country is a home to some of the oldest continuous Christian communities in the world, but the numbers of Christians have dropped dramatically in recent years. Before we come back to you, Martin, let's have a look at their history in the country.
Vatican and Iraqi flags going up for Pope Francis's visit. People here are working hard to fix everything up before he arrives. Paving the roads, fixing streetlights, and setting up crowd control barriers. Expectations are high. We hope for this to be a successful visit and that it will help this injured country. When His Holiness the Pope visits any place, there are a lot of positive outcomes from his visit. The Crisscross Church sits on the Nineveh Plain in Iraq, home to some of the earliest Christian settlements, centuries before Islam established itself across the Middle East. Over time, Iraq became home to one of the world's most diverse Christian communities, featuring Catholic, Chaldean, Armenian Orthodox, Protestant, as well as other branches of Christianity. We are sending a message to the Pope and to the world that we are here. We, the Christians, are remaining on our land. Our roots are here. It is impossible to leave the homeland that embraced us. There were as many as an estimated 1.4 million Christians in the country at the start of the Iraq War in 2003. Sectarian conflict drove most of them away. The Pope's visit is supposed to send a message of support, but he'll also meet with the head of Iraq's Shiite Muslim community, sending a different message that the different faiths can get along.
So, Martin, as we heard in the report, many different variants of Christianity there in Iraq. What role does the head of the Catholic Church really play for all those different Christians in Iraq today?
Well, I mean, every one of these denominations has been basically under enormous pressure. So, I mean, on the one hand, even though we can talk about different communities and different denominations, for essentially the forces that had been impinging regularly over the space of Christian practice in Iraq, of course, what they see is mostly just Christians. What that means is that the Pope coming to the area is not really just sort of something that will impact sort of the standing of Catholics in the region or in the country, but will actually go beyond that. And I think that it can be rightly seen as presenting the case for the Christian community as a whole. I think that for this Vatican, the question of interreligious relations, especially with the Muslim world, has been very, very important. And I think that in the conditions in which a Christian community finds itself, this gains obviously new relevance.
DW's religious affairs analyst Martin Guck there. Thank you, Martin.